a virtual freak who vows to get revenge on a corporation that overworked him to death. A being failed and left to be forgotten, left within a cancelled Sonic game that will never come to be. GenesisX is from a Sonic pasta called Virtuality Decay, made by Just Hari, and the character is voiced by Puppet One. There was also some additional help with the story by Ram_CD and Biggie Wiggy Lad. This particular entity wants nothing more than to make his higher-ups pay for what they have done to him. He uses the unfinished glitch sprite as his physical body and has lost all human memories, only remembering the hatred he felt for Sega as he died. Let it be known that Hari has told me that the story will be getting updated and may change drastically, and when that time comes, I'll cover him again. Trevor always had a very troubled childhood due to being abused by his father, who was a heavy drug user. Since he was a child, Trevor suffered from an undisclosed heart condition as well. His mother, Rose, was responsible for helping treat his illness, but there was no cure. Trevor had a better life after his father's passing. His mother loved him and treated him as well as she could. This helped to heal the wounds left by his father, and he was able to finally live a happy life. Trevor managed to finish elementary school, high school, and finally graduated from college. At the age of 20, Trevor lost his mother in a car accident. While the two of them were traveling to Argentina in the rain to celebrate his graduation, his mother lost control of the car due to wet asphalt. The car crashed and rolled down a hill. His mother fainted from the impact, and it was impossible to get her out of the car. And then, minutes later, the car exploded due to a petrol leak. Trevor was taken to the hospital and came very close to death. The accident, along with the smoke released, greatly affected his heart condition, in addition to having fractures in his body. But after many months of treatment and efforts, Trevor finally managed to recover from his hardship, leaving him only the trauma and suffering of having witnessed his mother die in front of him. At the age of 23, Trevor decided to start a new life. He moved to Japan, the country he had always dreamed of living in since he was a child, where he met a Scottish lady who had moved to Japan to live near her family, and the two ended up falling in love, moving in together, and having 2 kids. Trevor also managed to get his dream job at Sega, where he was in charge as an artist and programmer. Trevor always had a good personality. He always had a good heart. He always tried to help others with a smile on his face. At Sega, he was always a great employee who was willing to work hard for his job. Everyone loved this guy. It's clear that Trevor had a troubled past, even suffering from a heart disease. So when he had the chance to work for Sega, he was naturally excited. Unfortunately, his suffering wasn't over yet, as he worked with a woman by the name of Lucy. I'll go ahead and read the origin of GenesisX, then summarize what happens afterwards. Nintendo entered into a partnership with Sega around 5 months before the launch of the Virtual Boy, so development had already begun before the console was even released. The idea was to have the game ready by launch day, which would leave people even more surprised and hopefully make them more interested in the Virtual Boy. Nintendo hadn't done this out of the desire for a truce with its competitor. They just wanted to use Sega as a means of promoting its new product. However, Sega also had an idea against Nintendo. They wanted to develop a revolutionary game taking advantage of Virtual Boy technology. They aimed to make this game the biggest hit of the year and have more relevance than Nintendo itself. Production of the game began in a hurry, which led to an eventual crunch for development. Everyone had only 5 months to deliver everything that was needed to complete the game in its entirety. So, at a meeting with the president of Sega along with his executives, the decision was made to double work for all employees. Their breaks would be reduced while maintaining the health of the employees, all to try to speed up the development of the game before its release. But Trevor decided to confront Lucy, the person who ran the project, in her office to try and lessen the crunch time. Ma'am? Yes, Trevor? It's about how much we work each day. It's starting to get stressful. You realize you're the 5th person confronting me about this, and you know what I said? What? No, Trevor, you have to understand that this is a great opportunity. Sacrifices have to be made in order to reach the goal successfully. Virtual reality is a limitless idea that barely anyone has scratched the surface, so a bit of rushed development needs to be enforced to reach the deadline to make a game on the same day the Virtual Boy launches. But ma'am, what about people's physical and mental health? If we took more breaks, it would help all of us be motivated to actually complete the project instead of working us to the bone. Learn to adapt to the circumstances, Trevor. If you can't do a simple task, then I don't think you're cut out for this. But just because you can doesn't mean... Please, Trevor, I'm trying to give you a suggestion here. The least you can do is just think about it. We need to ensure this works for the company so it creates other opportunities in the future. It's not really that hard to understand a simple concept like that. I'll try to, but keep my words in consideration, please. Good. Now, please return to your station. After that confrontation, we go fast forward 4 months, and the game was only halfway through its development with an estimated time of 7 months to 1 year to complete. The Virtual Boy presented several problems and limitations in development of the game, and this delayed the whole process by a lot. All the executives of the company became desperate, and their health slowly drained. Some stayed home, missing their first hour just to get more rest, and one of these workers was Trevor. Trevor ran late and accidentally bumped into Vice President Lucy while trying to get to his workstation, but Lucy confronts him about this. Late to work again, I see. Sorry, ma'am. I didn't see you there. I'll do better next time. Avoiding my question is not going to help you out of this situation. I wasn't trying to. Trevor, we want this game out not to just be sloppy and be overworked. But ma'am, I am overworked. See, that's my problem. I just saw you running to work. Does an overworked person sprint just to clock in? Trevor, be real with me here. You clearly have energy. You might have to consult the president about this with your behavior, and the rest of the employees clocking in late. But that really wasn't my intention, ma'am. You know how hardworking I am, so please be lenient on your workers. We're trying our best for the company. Depends on my mood. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to consult the president. Both Lucy and Trevor walked the opposite directions from each other. As Trevor walked to his station, Lucy walked away with her heels clacking on the floor. Due to Lucy's confronting the president about the employees clocking in late, it was decided that they would take the work to the extreme that month, completely removing the breaks from all employees and making them work even harder than before. Some employees even decided to get sleeping bags and sleep at Sega headquarters. That month became known as the month of hell among the employees. No one could stand to work in the company anymore as they couldn't handle the heavy crunch time and stress they'd be going through. Being the main programmer for the virtual Sonic the Hedgehog, in addition to being in charge of making some sprites of the game, Trevor was exhausted. He lost weight due to a poor diet, and his back hurt due to his hours of sitting in front of a computer. His fingers throbbing and sore, rampant headaches due to constant typing on a keyboard. To make things worse, Trevor couldn't speak out as his salary would be cut, so the higher-ups never heard his pleas. Everyone was forbidden to leave the company until the game was finished. Trevor spent a whole month away from his family without any form of contact. With his living conditions, it was a living hell to communicate, spending less time with his family or with anyone while at work. To make things worse, his significant other was in her final months of pregnancy with the couple's second child, but Trevor was prevented from being there for them. During one of Trevor's work days, while he was running to another employee's desk to deliver an unfinished virtual Sonic the Hedgehog cartridge, he ended up having a serious cardiac arrest due to the effort he made that day and unfortunately died before he was able to get to the hospital. After that day, the company was never the same. Trevor's body was put to rest and then buried at his funeral, where his wife and children watched in tears as the most important person in their lives was buried. Before Trevor's death, he was carrying a virtual Sonic the Hedgehog cartridge in his hands. So, after his death, he continued to hold the cartridge in his hands as he lay on the ground. Due to his death being so sudden, his soul was purged from his body and transmitted directly to the cartridge instead of passing to the spiritual plane, thus reincarnated in a reality inside the cartridge as a completely different being. The version of the game had several glitches and bugs because it wasn't completed. One of those glitches was in the Sonic sprite, which had its body completely black. Trevor's soul inside the cartridge used the bug sprite as a physical body for itself, and so Trevor wakes up with some memory loss as he was confused and hated that he found himself in this position. He was reminded of his abuse, leaving him with only the memories of his wife, his children, and his incessant hatred for the company responsible for the loss of his life, Sega. All of which happened in less than a second for Trevor. So because Trevor had a heart condition prior to this and the additional stress, it's clear to see how he passed. But he had likely carried hatred in his heart for many years, not just from the company, but for everything that's happened to him, and this just amplified it. After Trevor's death, it's said that the conditions of the company were reversed after Sega received a ton of lawsuits. Sega had to pay more or bribe people to not say anything about overworking people. Sega ended up not working on the game since it caused them so much trouble and just wasn't worth it in the end. Everyone except for our favorite villain, Lucy. Lucy decides to take a cartridge home to try and understand why everyone was hating on the game. Not knowing what was inside, after looking into the Virtual Boy, she boots up the game and it begins. I won't read the full story here, but just know Lucy gets exactly what she deserves. GenesisX basically toys with her mind, shows her horrifying images, and speaks how she deserves this. And GenesisX is able to put stuff in her brain that basically kills her. Honestly, you could say that GenesisX is a monster, but the real monster here was Lucy. And that is the story of GenesisX for now. The story isn't too bad, and I know the revenge plot is used a lot, but I like how it was handled here. Not to mention, if I had this thing after me, I'd be terrified. Though, if there is one takeaway from the story, Lucy is an absolute monster. I mean, she is so comically evil, it's kind of funny. Like I mentioned before, there will be changes to the story at some point, and when that time comes, I'll be able to talk about it. Now, let's move on to some future projects for the Virtual Freak. I was waiting on the release of the PCX skin for Pillar Chase 2 since this thing was going to get one before dropping this video, but seeing as PCX was removed temporarily from the game, I figured now was a good time to release this video while we wait for what they will do. The plan was to get gameplay footage, and while I don't have that, I was able to find a render of what it would look like. The other projects are Devil's Dawn and Sonic.exe Outcome Memories, both being Roblox games where you have to survive against monsters, just having different monsters and things about them. Whether or not GenesisX will get his own game is unclear, but all it really takes is permission from Justari and a dedicated fan to put it together. Could even be you. That being said, let's talk about some fun facts about the character I think are interesting. He can hear what you are thinking if you're around him, so if you think this guy is hideous and spooky, well, he'd know that. The name of his world is called Virtuality, hence the name of the story, Virtuality Decay. If GenesisX were to have victims, they would become corrupted and receive a black and red body, being mind-controlled by the Red Menace. GenesisX's mind gets more unstable as time passes, and his appearance and mind degrade, only wanting his pain and suffering to end. What's interesting about this fact is his hatred is the thing that brought him here, but it's also the thing that is keeping him here. He's meant to suffer for all eternity, and even if he got his revenge, he may be cursed to stay in this virtual hell forever. Which brings me to something I want to talk about. This character is often compared to Mr. Virtual, a Mario horror brew, due to them both being involved with the Virtual Boy, though they are a little different. While they both want revenge, it's for different reasons. Mr. V is a psychopathic killer who pretty much kills for fun, and wants to get back at the person who stopped that from happening. GenesisX wants to get revenge because his workplace caused him, his family, and everyone around him so much stress. So while the similarities are there are some key differences. And also, they are separate characters made by separate people. That's all I got for you guys today. Subscribe, use my code in the description to support the channel and get 10% off your order for Advanced, and maybe one day we can have a Dankachi flavor. But most importantly, stay freaky.